Hi, and welcome to A Cup of Tea with Stephen. Now, please don't switch off, but we're going to be talking about mental health. Last week was Mental Health Awareness Week, and it's something that it's so tragic. Every time I look down on Facebook now, there's a beautiful person been taken from us. Men are more likely to commit suicide than women, and men are much more unlikely to talk about how they feel. I just think we're not brought up like that. Toxic masculinity is something really that needs to be addressed. But my next guest is someone that does talk about how they feel. There's a saying, big boys don't cry, but this man has gone from TV hard man to someone that champions people living with mental health issues, and also is someone that I really admire. Is EastEnders Minder star Gary Webster. Hi Gary, how are you?
I'm very well indeed.
You got your cup of tea with you?
Lovely, got my cup of tea, cheers, got a little crown on it.
Is that for a queen? Is it my honour?
I'm hoping to get to Drag Race eventually. I'm hoping to get to Drag Race.
Oh my gosh, there's nothing like a cup of tea.
Oh, yeah, my mum used to live by them, absolutely, cup of tea.
Yeah, I'll get to that. But
yeah, I mean, sure.
My God, I mean, you and Wendy are a lovely family, and you've really gone through the wars, and the pandemic wasn't any easier for you, was it?
No, we thought we'd crossed our greatest river before, 18 months before, and finally found some sort of stability within, not within ourselves or within the family, but just in our circumstances. And then COVID hit, and it kind of, and we were, the first, from March to January was fine. We kind of dug in, and then we got hit for the last 3 or 4 or 5 months. I've never known start of a year like it.
I literally couldn't believe when I looked down. I literally just spoke to you a few days before that, and then
that's right.
After speaking to you into the mail, and there was the news, and I thought you've got to be joking. Of all people, for it to hit.
Yeah, it was a remarkable sort of 3 or 4 weeks, and things have happened since that have kept that kind of kept that move. But we've been through so much as a family that we just you've just got to take it as it comes and try and manage it and try and keep focused, open, talking. So it's the pandemic for us wasn't necessarily much different to what we've been through 18 months before. So we were kind of prepared in that respect. But what came in January and people dying and stuff, we had no preparation.
I mean, it must have been a bit. I think to let everyone know, first of all, I'm so sorry you lost your mum.
Yeah.
And that must have been. I mean, for anyone that loses a relative is bad enough, but during the pandemic, it must have been worse because you didn't have access to us. I presume.
No, it was we were lucky because we had started to see her. She was in a care home in a bubble, what they call. So we could see her through a very well shielded, plasticed up an environment in 2 different rooms. And so we saw her 2 days before Christmas, and we had like a lovely afternoon, 35, 50 minutes or whatever. And we told her how much we loved her and how much we'd miss her at Christmas and all that. And then we sort of, said we'd see her in the new year. And then to cut a long story short, my eldest son, he showed symptoms of COVID on January the 1st.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, about 3 days later, and then he was bedridden really from about the 3rd onwards. And then he went and got tested and he was positive. I then started showing symptoms and I followed his path completely. I was then in bed, couldn't get out of bed. Whilst that happened, we got the phone call to say, I actually rung the care home to say, listen, we won't be able to come in and see my mum because we've both been isolated for a fortnight. We've been told to isolate. And they told us then that she had contracted it, but she was back in the care home and she was doing okay. And then 2 days after that, I got a phone call to say she had died, which was a great shock. And then, but by this time, Wendy had got it as well, and we were always very concerned about Wendy because she has a history of pneumonia and things.
Yeah.
And then she went steadily downhill, and then had to be taken into hospital. to she was rushed into hospital with pneumonia, and then she was diagnosed with COVID pneumonia. Obviously, all this was happening whilst, you know, we were kind of grieving. I really didn't have time to think about the actual grieving process. I mean, I was absolutely devastated that my mum had died, but Wendy's health had deteriorated so quickly that my focus could only be about thinking positive about, you know, and relying on the science and the NHS to pull her through, because, you know, there was a 48 hours when there were decisions being made whether to put her on ventilator. And I knew from experience of seeing what has happened on the TV that once you're on the ventilator, things can get very, very tricky.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, it was a tough 48 hours for us all.
I was watching some Mind and a few other things you've done. Has playing the hard man ever got you into any trouble, that image?
Well, you know what, Steve? What I've always tried to do, I've always had a pretty good awareness about where pockets of trouble might be kind of dwelling. So if you go into a pub, I've always, you know, I've grown up in pubs and clubs and the usual fare. So I've always been pretty much aware to know when there might be a lively bunch of guys, geezers, who want to take a kind of maybe have a pop at you. Yeah. So I've always worked on the premise that meet them head on. So I would always go at the bar and I go, all right, lads, and then they might say, you that guy from whatever, oh, whatever. And you just go, yeah, hi, how are you? Good to see you. And you kind of diffuse any arrogance that they may think you have.
Yeah.
And before you know it, they, from thinking, oh, here he is, a jumped up actor, who's he think he is? They're like, you're their pal. Yeah. So that's the way I very rarely had any trouble because that's not why I was out. Wasn't going out to say, oh, do you know who I am? I like socializing. I could go out and enjoy a few pints and stuff back in the day. Yeah. And, you know, it wasn't about me. I've always looked upon as the work I find very important. I look at that that's the main focus of my time as an actor. Anything outside of that, you've got to enjoy it, and you've got to be seen to enjoy it, because you're doing a job that thousands of people would like to do. And I cannot abide people who complain or going through troubles in their mind of finding the part. Come on, guys, let's enjoy it, because we're doing something that everyone else would love to do.
Yeah. How did you decide to become an actor? Where did you train?
It really was my comprehensive school. I got to 16, and Miss Fall, I always give her a name check. She actually said to me, Gary, your energies are being diffused. You're not learning in French and all that. They're doing the school play. So would you think about being in it? At which point I said, I hadn't really thought about it before. So I did the school play. I got bitten by the bug, as they say. And I knew that's what I wanted to do from then on in. And then I kind of went to the National Youth Theatre during the summer of that year. And then I went back to the NYT for 4 years, did some great stuff there, Murder in the Cathedral, etc. And then I got into Lambda. And then my fate was sealed.
You know, at the moment, a lot of people are in debt. And you wrote a book called Debt Rescue.
Yes, I did.
Hey, guys, if you want it, he's got his clothes off on the front cover.
Yes. I never show that to the children. Only if they're very extremely naughty.
A lot of people out there that are frightened because the minute they hear they're in debt, they feel bad. They don't think, what can I do? What can you do?
Well, I originally wrote that book because I saw a documentary about male suicide. This was like 15 years ago. And 3 out of the 6 cases that they focused on, which were devastating to the family, 3 were concerning death. And 3 were concerning how the men of the family, who had been seen as the breadwinner as such, felt so ashamed that they had messed up, or they had invested badly, or they had lost their jobs, that they were actually going out to work, but there was no work. They were kind of living this false world because they couldn't sit down and talk openly to say to the family, to extended family, to friends, that whatever they'd set out, their dreams, they were just hitting a big hiccup at the moment. So I thought, that is wrong. No one should lose their life for that. So I thought, if I put it down and said, listen, these are the mistakes I made. They weren't intentional, but they were made. And I talk about it, and I sort of put a bit of humor in there. And I feel that that's how we must now approach any sort of debt problems going forward. And I think the pandemic has thrown up a lot of that.
So I'm sitting here in debt, and I'm you know, the many men are brought up to believe that the breadwinner.
Yes.
If they failed, if they're not, what's my course of action I should take?
Okay.
And thinking right now, what's going on with my life?
Okay, the first course of action, if you know, with any male in debt, would be for me to speak to their partner, male or female, and tell them, if they've kept it secret from them, tell them, you know, and have a really in-depth conversation about how they're feeling, how they may have felt ashamed, so somebody else knows.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time, the partner will say, I knew something was wrong. I'm so pleased you've told me. Then tell extended family, tell extended friends. So you're not portraying this character, this person that everyone assumes is going to pay for this and pay for that you may have done previously. Go to the Citizens Advice Bureau.
Yeah, that's
sit down with them, TAB, and explain your situation, and then contact everybody you're in debt to, right? And explain to them that you are in debt, you've hit hard times. So whatever repayment scheme you will offer them will accommodate what you can pay at this time. Yeah. Now, there's certain companies that will be aggressive with you and say, well, have you got your credit card now? Pay yourself 500 quid now. Legally, and you'll find this out from the CAB, you can say, all I can afford at the moment is £10 a month. I will pay you that for 3 months, at which time I will review. And this is any amount of money. Yeah. They cannot refuse that offer. And once you're talking about it, it doesn't, like any worry you have, it doesn't become such a big burden. And you realize, a bit like any problem you have, whether it be addiction or this or that, there's hundreds of us out there, thousands of people out there who are going through similar difficulties, mental health. And what together we can get through this. On our own will only cause us problems.
You know, the other thing was really interesting is you and Wendy have got together and are fronting SOS, and Rob also from Out News Global, which we're supporting.
Yes.
It's somewhere you can actually call if you're feeling suicidal about debt or about anything.
Sure. Any problems? Yeah, we're very proud to be patrons or ambassadors. Yeah. Wendy's known Michael Mansfield, and we've known Yvette for some time. And Michael's daughter, unfortunately, committed suicide about 5 or 6 years ago. So they decided that they wanted to do something to help people. And at the moment, there's the phone lines that you can ring if you're just feeling down, if you're feeling low, you're feeling there's no one to talk to, then you can ring and there'll be someone on the end of the phone. And also part of their overall project is to create safe spaces within every workplace in the country. Yeah. So it could be once a month, it could be an hour, and you have the princes to the paupers, you'll have the CEO with the good cleaners who come in and help out, you know, anyone who's feeling low, feeling down, feeling depressed, feeling suicidal, there's a meeting, it's confidential, and you can just talk.
How do you talk to your boys about mental health?
We encourage it. You know, we set out from, I mean, Wendy suffered from clinical depression for as many years as I've known him before. Yeah. And the boys have always been aware of this. And also we know times are tough. We talk about, you know, and we just encourage talking. There's not any taboo subject with us. Whatever's they're feeling down, whether they want to talk to us or not, is up to them. Because they might, if it's a friend, fantastic. What we always say is that there's the opportunity. We're here. We're not closing it down. We are here. So hopefully, if it got to the point where they felt there was nowhere else, we're here. You know, they might as likely go down to the pub and talk to their mates about it. I think the younger generation are much more on top of all this than you know, us middle agers.
I know, Gary, even my really trendiest of friends that think they're like brothers and sisters with their children practically get a shock eventually when they go, no.
That's why I would never show them the front cover of Debt Rescue. Are you sure? My value would sink it would.
The LGBT community, which I know you and Wendy support enormously, and we really struggle a lot with mental health due to trauma.
Sure.
Lack of acceptance, I go into the schools and do something called diversity role models, which I talk about. Well, I'll make a joke, talk about being gay or whatever it is. I just talk about going at school. But there's a lot of parents that don't want their children to learn at school about LGBTQ. What would you say to parents like that?
Well, I think ultimately that they're a kind of dying breed, because I think their sons and daughters do want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And they do want to be inclusive, and they do want to be diverse, and they want to encapsulate and encourage and embrace all diversity within their generation. Yeah. So you either hop on that train. We're on that train. But if it doesn't sit pretty with you, that's probably because it didn't sit pretty with their parents and that. Well, you know what? You either just keep that cycle going, or you go, no, I'm on board. And whether the parents or not like it, the train is going.
I'd like to know, you're one of the finest actors we have, and you're old school acting. What are some of the best actors you've worked with?
Well, I was thinking about this. I mean, obviously working with George Cole was a delight, because I was there on a regular basis. Michael Gambon did an episode. Pete Postlethwaite did an episode. Just luxuries. Susanna Doyle, I worked recently with Lucy Benjamin. Kaja Pelku, I did Family Affairs with, who won Soap Award for Best Actress. I've been generally blessed, and not being religiously blessed, but just blessed in the profession that most of the projects I've worked with, I've been very happy with the outcome.
You were born in London, Jack the Ripper's favorite place, Whitechapel. What
Stepney?
Yeah. Well, Stepney, not White. Oh,
yeah, Whitechapel. I'll have Whitechapel. Don't worry about
that. So, what differences have you seen over the year? You're born in 1963. What differences have you seen in London?
Oh, well, I think, London's, as it moves with the times. I mean, I spent some time there, spent some time out in Essex, and Essex is not the place that it used to be when I was growing up. There was all the only way is Essex and stuff. But so, I've spent my very informative years in Southeast London, and London moves with the times. It's almost like its own country. It's a wonderful, diverse, eclectic mix of every country, race, creed, colour, gender choice. You can sit on any tube train, any carriage, and just see the wonders of the world, in all its wonderful shapes and forms, encapsulated in that one tube train. And I love that.
Okay, Gary, what are you watching on the box at the moment?
Well, I tell you one thing we've recently watched was Queen's Gambit, which
wonderful.
Oh, fantastic. We've got two sons, 18 and 21, who are aficionados of Netflix and all that. So they keep funneling us with, you got to watch this, you got to watch that. So we love the Queen's Gambit. It's been a chance to catch up on different bits and pieces. But I think everyone is looking forward to safely, and I'm a great wear a mask, social distance, get your vaccination, because having experienced the tragic side of what COVID can really do, let's not be complacent.
Absolutely.
And let's not be ignorant of what the science tells us.
What have you got coming up? I know you're writing a lot of projects.
Yeah, there's a few sort of low budget films in the pipeline. I was on tour before COVID hit with a play called The Cat and the Canary, which had the wonderful Britt Eklund in it, and Mark Jordan, etc. And so we was having great fun with that. Ben Nealon, my dressing room pal, but we was having great fun, and then it got taken off. So I think there is speculation that might recontinue the tour. And then, it's just like, I feel I'm in the best place I've ever been as an actor. Yeah. I feel I've experienced so much now in life that I once played Macbeth about 25 years ago. And as much as it got very well reviewed at the Bolton Octagon, directed by Lawrence Tewell, fantastic director, I always personally thought, I want to play this when I'm a few more years older. I want to play it when I've experienced a bit more of life. And I feel I'm at that place now, not necessarily to play Macbeth, but I know no role challenge scares me anymore. I'm ready, you know. So I look forward to the next 25, 30 years with great excitement, you know.
If there's someone out there right now sitting, struggling, thinking it's not worth it, what would you say to them?
Well, I would say to them, it's always worth it, because the devastation that you're would leave behind would far outweigh the ability to find the strength to actually talk to someone. Talk to someone. Someone will listen. And if you can then find from them that inkling of self-worth that you must find, because we are all worth it, that to believe and to trust that whatever you're going through, you can find help and support. And I think I'm fortunate. Desmond Tutu, the great, Bishop Desmond Tutu, who lived through the terrible years of apartheid, called himself a prisoner of optimism. And I am a prisoner of optimism, but I am very much aware. So it's up to us prisoners of optimism to reach out to those who maybe don't have that trait and drag them with us so we all live a longer and better life.
Right, thank you so much. I'm going to put the SOS underneath the
Sure.
Anyone that has any issues or been affected by this.
Great.
It's been really touching, Gary. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
You're a great actor, and I can't wait to see you back on the screen. Thanks ever so much.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you very much.